Good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds, Greg Jennings. Looking good today, Greg. Think you know it. We got a lot going on this morning. Rondo was injured yesterday, out for a while. So where does that now leave the Lakers' title chances? Cam Newton made a big promise to Patriots fans, but will he be able to keep it? And there's cause for concern with Dak in Dallas. But our top story this morning, after years and years of mounting pressure, Washington will reportedly retire its team nickname today. And though a new name will not be announced just yet due to pending trademark issues, it's obviously a big win for those who've been calling for a name change to the organization for years. Nick, I'll start with you. What was your reaction to this?
It's about damn time. And we'll go a little history and then get contemporary, because I think that helps explain why this was so long overdue. The first time this term was ever used in an American newspaper was when it was listed as essentially a killed Native American scalp and the requisite reward that went with it. This team, Washington, back when they were Boston, the name was changed to this. Why? Because George Preston Marshall was their owner, and he was a notorious racist. Once George Preston Marshall moved the team to Washington, D.C., and it was the only team south of the Mason-Dixon line in the NFL, he added to the team's fight song, "Fight for Old Dixie." George Preston Marshall famously said he would integrate his team when the Harlem Globetrotters integrated theirs. And the only reason Washington actually signed a black football player 16 years after the rest of the league did was because the federal government threatened to make them move out of a federally funded stadium. And so once they were forced to, due to financial pressure, they signed a black player, which you look at what has happened right now. Dan Snyder has been forced to, essentially, due to financial pressure exerted by a lot of entities, most notably FedEx, he is being forced to change the team name. So while I'm glad it has happened, I do not give Daniel Snyder any credit. Now, I am not calling Daniel Snyder a bigot or a racist or any of those things, but he was overwhelmingly and incomprehensibly stubborn on this point. 7 years ago, when he was asked about it, he said he will never change the name. It's that simple. Write it in all caps, never. And he is only now changing the name because his bottom line demands that he does. So I'm glad it's happening. It was a blight on American sports that one of our major professional teams' nickname was a dictionary-defined racial slur. But this is not one where I'm comfortable patting Washington on the back for doing something they should have done a generation or two ago, Kevin Wilds.
Yeah, I think this is, it's hard to be super optimistic about this, like you said, Nick, since it had such a terrible history. And at the same time, I'm not going to be terribly pessimistic about it either, because this has been a long time coming, and this has been a fight that has been going on for decades in the sports world. I'm going to give a special shout out to not only everyone who has been working on changing this, but specifically the two groups that have given me this list here that I'm about to read off. This is Corey Collins did a great article for Sporting News, and even he cited changethemascot.org. It's a great resource, and it's a grassroots organization that has been pushing for changing mascots and team names. So in 1969, activists at Dartmouth changed their name, and I'm going to run through the list and see where we are today. University of Oklahoma in 1970 changed their mascot. Marquette dropped their mascot. Stanford and the University of Massachusetts changed their name in 1972. My mom went to the University of Massachusetts. I didn't even know they weren't always the Minutemen. Dickinson State, Syracuse, Nick, your alma mater, St. Bonaventure, Southern Oregon, Siena College, Eastern Michigan, St. John's, Miami of Ohio, Seattle University, Louisiana Monroe, Arkansas State, and North Dakota, in addition to several minor league teams and high schools all around the country. Greg, I think this is a sign of progress. It's been a long time coming, but progress is happening.
To that last point, I want to jump right there, the progress. I'm not going to get into the history. I'm not going to get into all the personal ties, but I will speak to progress. When you look at our nation and you look at the climate of our nation, it is about moving forward, being aware, being conscious, recognizing the other's plight, whatever that means, whoever the other may be. And I emphasize that because this is for all of us involved. If we're going to be a better nation, a better human race collectively, these things have to be considered. You have to recognize someone else's point of view. The name, whether it means something to one person, it may mean something different to the actual ethnic group or someone else involved. And so we have to consider these things because this is where we are as a nation. This is the temperature that we're experiencing. And I think this will be the remaining climate moving forward. And kudos again, like you said, Nick, to FedEx stepping up and really applying pressure to Daniel Snyder.
And Wilds and you and Greg both allude to, I think, the idea of, does it stop here, or are there other team names that should be changed? I think it muddies the water a bit if we don't acknowledge on the front end, as we've said, Washington's football team was in its own special category because their team name was an actual dictionary-defined slur. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't at least consider what does the Native community think of the Cleveland Indians, my hometown Kansas City Chiefs, the Atlanta Braves, and the Florida Seminoles. And so I think the Seminole tribe in Florida has been very vocal, at least what I've read, that the vast majority of members of that tribe feel like it is a partnership with Florida State. They want the name to remain. They feel like it is a tribute, in which case, perfect. Leave the name, like that is their decision to me to make. I think with the Braves and the Chiefs, it's a little grayer. I think they both should. It's an embarrassment that at Chiefs games we still do the tomahawk chop and some of that more cartoonish Native American imagery. That absolutely should change, even if those names can remain. But while I don't find the Cleveland Indians' name as offensive as what Washington's has been, because it's not a slur, I am forced when I'm thinking about this to say, should a team mascot be a people? And the answer to that is, to me, obviously no. It's not just removing Chief Wahoo, the offensive symbolism associated with that team. It's also, if there were, I'm Italian. If Oklahoma City was getting a basketball team and they said, hey, we thought about it, we're going to call them the OKC Italians. And Seattle's getting one too, and they're going to be the Seattle Koreans. We would say, well, that's ridiculous. Even if you're like, no, we're going to pay tribute. It's going to be, we would say you can't name your team after a people. And so I do think when it comes to the Cleveland Indians, that discussion has to be had. It is not nearly as awful. What Washington's team name had been was awful due to the history, due to who named them, all of it. Cleveland's, to me, is not in that category, but it is a discussion where we should listen to the Native community and say, are you cool with it? If you're not, or if you are, but you would like them to change some of the things like Chief Wahoo, move in that direction, or if that's a name that should be changed as well, we should listen to them just like we should listen to them on the Chiefs or the Braves also, Jenna.
And again, guys, after mounting pressure from corporate sponsors, from fans, from players themselves, as you all said so well, this is progress. This is a step forward, and so we should be optimistic as we look ahead. All right, we're going to take a little break now, change gears. Coming up on the other side, the Lakers lose another star. What does this mean for their title chances now? This is First Things First. Back to you with Antoine Walker. Gentlemen, time for stories to start your morning, beginning with some dunk dreams. And check out this insane throwdown setting the internet on fire. Look at that. Look at that, Nick. I've never seen anything close to that. You think there's anyone in the NBA that could pull off something like this?
Oh, that's a great question. Twan, I think the only guy in the NBA right now that could do this is Zach LaVine. because I think you got to be thinner, you got to have the height, the hops, there's a lot that goes into it. I think Zach LaVine's the only guy of the 450 players in the league that could do this specific dunk, Antoine.
No, Nick, Derek Jones, Miami Heat. He's the one guy could do that because he got the long arms. You got to think about it. Look at the arms. You got to have some long arms to kind of get the thing done. I like Derek Jones.
What's up, Wilds?
Well, I got two things. First of all, to take you behind the curtain, when Nick says, that's all, Jenna, it's a great question, we were debating which question to ask in the meeting, and Nick came up with the question. So when Nick says, oh, it's a great
Kudos
question,
to you, Nick.
we were kicking around like, should we call it the best dunk ever? What should we call? So Nick shouting out his own questions is the first point. Second of all, no one can do this because this takes hours and hours of practice. This isn't just a one-time thing. No NBA player is going to dedicate enough time to actually do it. Dunking has left the NBA arena. It is now only for specialized players.
Still amazing. Speaking of insane dunkers, Zion zeroed in the rookie ready for the NBA restart. Better shape with a better game. He says, quote, I think there are going to be parts of my game that you didn't see before that you'll see when we start playing. So, Antoine, you think this new Zion on the Pelicans, you think they could be a dangerous 8 seed if we're seeing a better Zion than we saw before?
Why'd you cut that off?
I think they'll be good and competitive. I think the bubble will bother them. I think with a young team like this, they're going to need that home court advantage, and they'll probably be able to win a couple games in New Orleans if it was the playoffs. So I don't like them in the playoffs to make a deep run. I think they can be competitive. But then Zion, you got to give him all the credit. To be able to get a sample size of what he was going through earlier, we saw the potential. We saw that he could be great. But to dedicate himself over the last 3-4 months to get in better shape, to add things to his game, shows you that he's going to be a superstar in this league.
Wilds, I love Zion. I know the NBA wants the Pelicans in the playoffs. I still think the Pelicans season lasts 10 games maximum, which is the most they could play without making the playoffs. Maybe they make that little play-in situation against the Grizzlies or the Blazers, but I don't see I don't see the Pelicans even being in the first round. If they do get there and Zion plays his triple-plus game, maybe they can take the Lakers 5. So the maximum number of games the Pelicans could play is 13. Or I guess 15. 10 in the regular season play-in, plus 5 in the postseason. Wilds.
5 in the but they would lose that. You should be rooting for the Pelicans. You don't want to play my Blazers, Nick. And look, Zion, I know there's some advanced metrics that say the Pelicans lineups are pretty strong once Zion's back, but when the proof's in the pudding, they're 10-9. So maybe Zion got a lot better, but I don't imagine them making the playoffs. That's all Blazers.
All Blazers.
All right.
Playoff P.
Moving on to playoff P. The Clippers' 6-time All-Star Paul George recently said his shoulder is fully healed and he's, quote, feeling back to myself again. Nick, how much more dangerous do the Clippers get if we do, in fact, see playoff P?
Well, yeah, they'd be super dangerous. If playoff P is a thing that actually exists, Jenna, this is something everyone talks about. It's kind of like Bigfoot. Like, everyone talks about it, but who has actually ever seen it? Or at least seen it in the last half decade? Paul George hadn't played out of the first round since 2014. And every year when his season ends, it's usually because he wasn't very good. 8 of 18 with 7 turnovers in the final game in 16. 5 of 21 in the final game in 17. 2 of 16 in his final game in 18. And then last year, in the one game the Thunder won in the playoffs, he was 3 of 16. Like, Wilds, I don't know where this playoff P moniker came from, but the record doesn't seem to support it.
Well, I think it all goes back to that LeBron series when with the Pacers. But quick question, when you talk about who has seen it in the last half decade, are you talking about Paul George or are you talking about Bigfoot there? Have you been tracking
I'm talking
Bigfoot
about playoff
sightings?
P and Bigfoot, both. Yeah, both. There's been a few sightings, but not many in the last half decade.
All right, ending with a thumbs down and some breaking news. Lakers guard Rajon Rondo suffered a broken right thumb in practice Sunday night. He will undergo surgery. He's expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Look, Nick, you've been down on Rondo all season. How much do you think his absence will actually affect the Lakers' title chances now?
All right, so this is tricky, Jenna, because you're absolutely right. But prior to the Avery Bradley injury, my biggest concern with the Lakers is Rondo going to play too much? And now that is removed. So the good side of this is that Rondo's removed and the coaching staff is forced to see what the rotation looks like with more Alex Caruso minutes, maybe more of the street free agent guys they brought in, because Rondo's been that type of bad the 2 years with the Lakers. The bad with this is the Lakers had two guys that could competently guard opposing point guards. They're now both gone. Avery Bradley's gone, Rajon Rondo's gone, and one of the weaknesses going into the year was who's going to guard the opposing team's point guard. So both those guys are gone now. But the reality for the Lakers, Antoine, is very simple. It just means heavier is the head that wears the crown. LeBron's not only going to have to be brilliant, he really can't leave the court. Can we show all the Lakers perimeter guys with LeBron on, with LeBron on versus off? Every single guy they got, when LeBron's on the court, the team is awesome. Everyone except Danny Green, when LeBron's off the court, struggles immensely. So, Antoine, to me, this is it's another reminder. LeBron better be ready for 40 to 42 minutes a night immediately. No. You got to hope he's in shape. You got to hope if he can do that, then the Lakers will be fine, and they actually might be better off because Rondo won't be soaking up minutes. If he can't, then I think you're going to miss the extra ball handling Rondo can give you, Antoine.
It's a tough one because obviously I'm a huge Rondo fan. This is disappointing to see him have to go through this. I know he's seeking another title. But for the Lakers, it becomes a problem with their second unit because this is a guy that can come in and actually create off the dribble, get shots for guys. He allows LeBron James to rest probably 4 to 5 minutes and the team be okay. I know, Nick, you go inside the numbers and you said his numbers are not that great. But when you talk about playoff Rondo, a guy who's been there, or guys who understands the game, he trusts him. Now, I do go the other way. I think Frank Vogel overextends his minutes at times. So this forces him now to maybe play a J.R. Smith, a Dion Waiters, some other guys with more offensive talent. So that could help the Lakers out. So you take a lot of pressure off LeBron as far as having to get 30 every night. But this is a tough one. But one thing that's going to be good, Rondo can't be on the sideline. He still can be a coach off the bench. We know how his IQ for the basketball game. But this would not affect the Lakers getting to the championship. I would love to say that because I am a huge Rondo fan, but they'll be able to move on. They'll miss him a little bit in the second unit. But like you said, Nick, LeBron is going to have to get ready to play 40 minutes because they don't have a lot of playmakers now besides LeBron.
All right, just there's a few things. One, did you see, can we run that video again, Katank? Did you see LeBron dribbling that tiny basketball? I didn't realize that we had that video. I would have blown up this question like Nick blew up the earlier question. Watch this. Normal basketball, I'll just keep talking about Rondo until we get to the miniature basketball, and then I'm going to freak out because I've never seen that move specifically by LeBron. Look, Nick, there's been a lot of complaints about the food down in the bubble, but I think everyone's going to be okay once they feast on the Lakers' defense. Oh, here's still regular ball. Watch it. Here comes the miniature ball, Nick. Watch. Here comes the miniature ball. Darn it, still regular LeBron.
I'm excited for it.
Okay. Here it is, miniature ball.
There it is.
Have you seen that,
baby
Nick?
ball.
Yeah.
Baby ball.
I've never seen that. Anyways, hey, let's throw up the graphic of the defensive problems that the poor Lakers are going to have once they go up against this juggernaut on offense. First of all, you know the Blazers are getting in. I know Myers Leonard's shotgunning beers, which doesn't make me feel too great about the Blazers' chances. I'd rather just see like some more vegetables and just regular, nutritional stuff. But there's Dame and CJ. If they get in, Nick, I know you don't think they're going to. Then you've got this duo, 2 MVPs, Russ and Harden. And then you got playoff P, who you don't think exists in Kawhi. I don't know if Quinn Cook, J.R. Smith, and Dion are supposed to guard these guys, Nick. I feel terrible for them. And then, Antoine, I'll throw it back to you. What is a reasonable amount of minutes that LeBron should play?
I mean, obviously, it's playoff time, so he should be playing 40 minutes a night. But the thing is, can you be effective the 8 minutes that he's going to be off the court? That's the main thing. LeBron should be prepared to play 40 minutes a night, and I'm pretty sure he's going to want to play 40 minutes a night. but you got to be able to get some production with him on the bench. He can't play 48 minutes. It may be nights like that he does play 45 minutes, but they're gonna have to find somebody else to create offense, and that's why you may have to play the Dion Waiters who can create for himself. J.R. Smith, obviously more of a standstill shooter, but they got to find. And now Kyle Kuzma becomes even more important offensively that he's back on his game.
So here's the reality of it, and you alluded to it, Antoine. Yeah, LeBron knows he's going to have to, in the biggest games, play around 44 to 45 minutes. That's what he's going to have to do. In the regular games, he's going to have to play 38 to 40 minutes. Luckily, he and Wilt Chamberlain are the two players in NBA history built to do that, so I think he'll be fine. But I have been as down on Rondo as anyone in the national media. A lot of people locally in Los Angeles have been ahead of this for over a year now. Nationally, I think it's starting to pick up some steam. But they still needed warm bodies, and they still needed guys who they knew had played in the playoffs. That's now removed from it. And you look at the other contenders, no other contender has lost even one rotation player. The Lakers have now lost 2 rotation players, which is why, Wilds, I'm making a proclamation today. I've thought about it long and hard because you and everyone always tries to say 6 rings, 6 rings. LeBron can't be the greatest ever until he has 6 rings. It's a facile argument, but I'll engage in it for this moment. We all know LeBron officially, unofficially got credit for 2 rings when he came back from 3-1 down and beat a 73-win team, sent Draymond crying to his car to call Kevin Durant. So right now he's at 4. Before the stoppage happened, the Lakers were playing their best ball of the season. They were healthy. The stoppage happens. They get, thrown off course. Giannis is able to get healthy. Other things happen that makes it harder. Then they lose Bradley. Yep. Now they've lost Rondo. When they win the title this year, it counts as another 2, which means LeBron and Jordan will both have 6 rings. What? 2 for the 73-win Warriors, 2 for this year, given all the injuries, 6 rings to 6 rings. So he's tied. I just want everyone to understand. What up, Antoine? What?
We tied up.
Anthony Davis is on the team too, Nick, okay? Don't just say it. He's not playing by himself. Anthony Davis is over there now.
Well, yeah, he's got to have a sidekick. He's got to have a sidekick. AD will also get 2 rings, okay? So fine. AD, you also get 2 rings if they win this year. LeBron gets 2, AD gets 2, everyone else gets 1.
Some of the worst math I have ever been a part of. And I got a 5
1 + 1 + 2
Let's take a turn, talk some football.
That's 6.
Did you happen to catch Cam Newton's latest Instagram video? To say he is fired up would be an understatement. First things first.
6 rings. 3 months away. Get excited.
Back here with Greg Jennings.
Oh, yeah.
Patriots quarterback Cam Newton has been on a mission since Carolina released him back in March. A mission to prove to the world he's back and he's better than ever before. The former #1 overall pick, the former MVP, the former starting NFL quarterback let all his frustrations with his doubters boil up in his latest Instagram video. It is self-titled Post-Workout Vent Session, and here's why.
You know what make this different is they ain't never seen this Cam. They ain't never seen him. You wanna know how I know? I ain't never seen him. The forgotten Cam, the shit on Cam, tired of being sick of tired Cam. Felt like I was just left to die. You know what I'm saying? It's over with for him. He ain't the same player.
Oh, injected into my veins, Nick.
High.
Injected into my veins. I love it.
Wilds watched that and then ran through a wall. Then came back and ran through it a second time. That bar's high for Cam Newton. What do you think, Nick? You buying that we're going to see a Cam Newton like we've never seen before this season for the Patriots?
Oh, I'm absolutely buying it because every time Cam Newton has been doubted, he has come back with an absolute and utter vengeance. He has his issues collegiately, ends up going to junior college. What does he do that junior college season? undefeated national champion. He then knows he's only going to have to play 1 year of big-time college football. There's questions about his eligibility. There's questions about the circumstance in which Auburn got him. He has arguably the single greatest season any college football player has ever had, certainly on the short list. He goes #1 overall. Folks say, oh, he's more worried about being an icon, more worried about marketing. He opens his career with back-to-back 400-yard passing games. He has a bad third year in the league or fourth year in the league. He's down. His stats are down. His team doesn't win. He responds with a 15-1 MVP season. And now he's been released. He's been forgotten about. He's been forced to play for less money, well, reportedly about the same money he was making at Auburn. The last time he wasn't clearing over $1 million a year. And now he is back, I think, not only with a vengeance, but in the best position he could be in to succeed. Greg, his final year, healthy year in Carolina, 2018, before he got a shoulder wreck midway through the year, it was a lot of quick intermediate passing. A lot of get the ball, find someone, hit him immediately. That's what they're going to ask him to do in New England. He's got the best coaching he's ever had, and Carolina, other than McCaffrey, hadn't surrounded him with elite skill position guys in the last 7 years. So he checks all the boxes to me that we're going to see the best version of Cam Newton we've seen in quite some time.
I agree 1,000%. When you listen to Cam in that simple clip, his intention, his focus, his just posture, everything about him tells me he is going to be a force to be reckoned with when he gets the opportunity to be under center. Period. We're already going to see him in a new uniform. We're going to see Cam like we've never seen before. I think what we will see from Cam is a potential MVP talks type game from Cam Newton.
I love it, Greg. I love it. This just gets better and better for me. Nick is now a Patriots fan. Greg's got him as MVP. And look, we've seen a lot of guys move teams. Phillip Rivers on the Colts, like, oh, I'm happy to be here. And Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, like, oh, football's fun again. And Cam is putting out straight up motivational interviews that you can go and put on your iPhone and play it while you work out and get stronger, bigger, and stronger. Also, if we keep the video going, he talks about to his son, he's like, hey, we're going back to Charlotte. Like, nope, we're going to New England. And it's very inspiring. So I know people will be like, no, Wilds, no. Cam's hurt. This isn't going to be the same old Cam. This isn't just because the Patriots are the only team to lose an MVP quarterback and then get an MVP quarterback. It's not going to be the same Cam. And to you, I say, oh, you might be right. Can we show the graphic of Michael Vick? Perhaps we're not going to get the old Cam. Perhaps we're going to get a new and improved Cam. This is Vick from 25 to 30. Completion percentage, up. Yards per game, up. Touchdown and interception ratio, up. Passer rating, up. Those were his 2 Pro Bowl years, Nick. So I know I welcome you aboard the Patriots bandwagon. Last week you said you would be rooting for the Patriots offense, and I'm certainly you're not going to root against the special teams. There's a special team, and we had McCourty on. You were very happy. You're like, very nice. So that's offense, defense, and special teams. Welcome you aboard, Nick.
Well, I'm not a Patriot fan, but I am a Cam Newton fan, and I do wish him to succeed. I hope he succeeds enough that he can sign with a new team next offseason. But I think you, unfortunately, raise some really good points. And I do last year, we spent so much time talking about, Jenna, oh, Tom Brady doesn't have the weapons. Tom Brady, it's not okay. We're about to see how good N'Keal Harry actually is. How good Mohamed Sanu, who everywhere he had been in his career until last year in New England, he had excelled, how good he is. And for a quarterback such as Cam, the 2 most important factors, he's about to have the best of his career. Not only the best coaching, also the best offensive line. Cam, so in 2015, the Panthers made do with a substandard offensive line that Cam made look better than it actually was. Ryan Khalil was the one standout on that offensive line year in, year out when Cam was there. They ended up losing a great guard. I think it was Norwood, whomever it was. They lost him in free agency after he had an all-pro caliber season. The Patriots are going to give Cam, Jenna, more protection and more of a schematic advantage than he's had at any point in his career.
And Greg, what's the biggest intangible that Cam Newton has that almost no other player in the NFL has right now? Organic motivation. The chip on his shoulder is bigger than almost anyone else's chip. We talk week in and week out about players trying to find a way to motivate themselves, get pumped up for the game. They have to read clips and what other people are saying. This is coming from the inside for Cam Newton. It just feels like he couldn't be in a better place to now just get out on the field and prove himself. How much does he have working in his favor with that kind of organic motivation, Greg?
I think he has a ton working in his favor. And if you listen to him over the course of this offseason, he's trying to almost contain those emotions and then let them out when he knows he needs to. Because you can't bottle up that amount of, like he talked about, slight frustration, anger at times, disrespect. All of those things, they have to be released. And Cam Newton understands I can't play, so to speak, like that, but I have to be able to express it and let it out in ways that are most impactful and effective, not only for him personally, but for him with the New England Patriots as a team and the organization. Because if they do well and he does well, everyone wins and everyone benefits. But like you said, Jenna, when you can be motivated by things that are organic and you don't have to fabricate anything and try to get yourself up to play, it's a scary sight when you have the talent that young man possesses.
Oh, I love it.
Wilds?
Well, Greg, I've got a question for you. He's working out with N'Keal Harry, worked out with Mohamed Sanu. Do you have any concern of, like, chemistry issues? Like, do we have enough time? What should he be working on as a receiver? What would you be trying to get done in this offseason?
It's seeing how they come out of their breaks. When you talk about quarterback and receiver relationships, a lot of people talk about chemistry. And yes, chemistry is important in getting that timing down. But it's really seeing, for quarterbacks, seeing how they react at the top of the route and at the start, meaning at the line of scrimmage, whether they're being pressed, whether they're being off, the type of releases they take, the timing that it takes for them to get off the jam or off a corner, and then at the top, the type of separation, how fluent they come out of their breaks. Those are things that he's going to now be able to see with these integral parts of this offense, and hopefully Julian Edelman as well. And then that's where the chemistry starts to build. But it's going to be more on Cam than the other guys, because we've seen him be a little errant with his throws. We've seen him not really have the talent that he's going to have now. And it is funny, Nick, because we are talking about the talent now of N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman and all these guys. And when Tom Brady was there, it was like, well, he needs more. Well, when you have a younger quarterback and a guy who we see has the ability of Cam, it starts to speak. Was it really Tom Brady?
Well, and we'll be able to listen. We'll be able to see a real-time, live experiment, if you will, when we see how Brady does with as good a weapons as anybody has in his conference, and how Cam does with the exact same weapons Brady had last year, plus 2 rookie tight ends. But the last element that I would add to kind of build off what Greg was saying in regards to Wild's question about working out with the receivers, we hear all the time that coaches can't lie to the players because they see in practice, they see who the best guy is. And as far as this narrative that a lot of local Boston beat reporters keep trying to put out there, like, well, Cam not only might not be the week 1 starter, he might not even make the team. That is going to be a harder and harder sell for Belichick inside that locker room when N'Keal Harry and Mohamed Sanu, after catching ducks from Jarrett Stidham in practice last year, are out there working out with Cam this offseason. So I continue to be bullish on Cam starting week 1. I think the Patriots are the 3rd best team in the conference right now. And if you're a Pats fan, as much as it pains me to say, things have just been going swimmingly for you the last few weeks.
For us,
there
Nick,
you go,
for us,
Wiles.
buddy.
Music to your ears. Take a turn, talk some Cowboys. Dallas reportedly not close to reaching a long-term deal with Dak Prescott. Uh-oh. First things first. All right, so the Cowboys have until Wednesday at 3 p.m. to sign Dak Prescott to a long-term deal. That's the franchise tag deadline. And while Jerry Jones is known for making those last-second deals. A recent report says the Cowboys are, quote, not close to reaching a multi-year contract with Dak. So here's what that means, America. If the two sides can't get a deal done by the deadline, Dak enters the 2020 season on a $31.4 million franchise tag. Nick, got a couple days left. How worried should Cowboys fans be at this point?
Well, I don't think they should at all be concerned about the 2020 football season. I think that Dak Prescott, either franchise tag or long-term deal, is going to be your starting quarterback, and you have the roster in place right now, even with Dak taking up a $31 million cap hold with the franchise tag, to compete for a championship. But, Greg, I think they should be incredibly nervous about the long term, because if they don't get a deal done with Dak, that means after this year, one of the following two things is happening. You're going to franchise tag him again, and that cap hit goes up to $35 million, and he's 1 year away at that point from hitting true free agency. Or, in order to re-sign him, if you don't get it done this season, you are going to have to pay through the nose for Dak Prescott, because he knows he's only 1 year away from true free agency. So if they don't get a deal done in the next 48 hours, Greg, I would be incredibly anxious about the long-term future for the Cowboys if I were a Cowboys fan, either because Dak's leaving or because we're going to have to pay him as if he's Patrick Mahomes to keep him, and neither one of those is a good option for them, Greg.
Yeah, everything that you mentioned is spot on. However, when we saw Dak Prescott sign his tender contract and give the tip of the hat, for me, that was a telltale sign. Regardless of where they are, they're going to try to come to some agreement. And I think Dak Prescott will be a Cowboy long term because, again, the Cowboys have been speaking highly of Dak, but Dak also has shown all signs of wanting to stay and be in that Cowboy franchise long term. When you start doing things like tipping the hat and putting on your Cowboy uniform and making sure fans and all Cowboy Nation understands that you want to be there, then at the quarterback position, you're starting to give up your leverage. And I think he's done that. He's showed his cards to the Cowboys. They know what he wants, and it's just a matter of them coming to terms. But you hit it right on the head. Nothing to concern themselves about right now this year, because they got him. Next year in the future, maybe then.
So, Greg, do you think this gets done by Wednesday?
I don't think it gets done by Wednesday. I really don't. I was optimistic before. I am not any longer.
Okay. I still think it gets done, Nick. Like Greg said, there's been a lot of complimentary stuff from the Cowboys to Dak. And Dak's little tip of the hat on Instagram went from Dak to the Cowboys. And look, this report is out that they're not close. Well, that's obviously out because we're got a little media negotiation. The Cowboys see that, and then Dak's crew see it. I don't know who put that message out there, but to me, that's be like, hey, we got 2 days out. We're not close. Let's really buckle down here and get it done. I still think this gets done by Wednesday, Nick.
Well, here would be my concern is because I said a month ago that I didn't think it would possibly get done before July 14th, before the eve of the deadline, and we're at July 13th. Oh, which, by the way, I just realized what day it was. It's my son's birthday. Happy birthday to Monze. Should call him, but he's probably not up yet. All right, more importantly, I had totally forgot. But I was too worried about Dak Prescott and Rajon Rondo's broken thumb to think about my own son's birthday. What a terrible indictment on me. All right, but more importantly, what you saw in Kansas City, a team and a player on the exact same page, meaning the team knows the player deserves a record-setting contract. The player knows the team is always going to be putting the best championship team possible on the field. They trust each other so they can agree on a 12-year pact. What is concerning to me, Jenna, is that all the reports out of Dallas is that they've mostly agreed on the money, but Dak wants a shorter deal, a 4-year extension, and the Cowboys want a longer deal, a 5 or longer year extension. If that's what they're arguing about, it makes me concerned that no matter, the Instagram post and all the good quotes Dak's given and the team's given about him, that they're actually not aligned on the long-term vision for this team, and that Dak's bigger priority, more power to him for it, is to squeeze every last dollar out of this negotiation, Jenna.
I agree. Plus, we've been talking about this for 18 months, Nick. There was a time where you thought, well, of course it'll get done before the start of last season. It should get done before the start of this season. And here we are 2 days before the tag. Greg, I'm just curious, if not Dak, what's the backup plan for the Dallas Cowboys? Is Andy Dalton sort of the cheap backup plan here?
Well, yeah, right now, you got to think they were thinking, if we don't sign Dak, Andy Dalton, he has proven that he can play in this league. At what level? It's to be seen with the Dallas Cowboys. However, they do have a quarterback who has experience playing in the league on their roster in Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton this year. So moving forward, even if they don't get anything done, I still think Dak Prescott will be a Cowboy long term. Nick, to your point, when it comes to Dak Prescott really wanting a shortened contract and the number that he wants, he's trying to get both things done in his favor. And when you're a player, it's either a team believes solely, completely in you, like you alluded to with Patrick Mahomes, like, yep, he deserves it, give him everything that he wants and more. Or they're like, yeah, you might deserve something, but you don't deserve it all, because we've put together a team and a personnel around you that has made you look very, very well. And so I think that's where the Cowboys have some leverage, and Dak is going to have to give when it comes to that extent of how long he wants to be under contract.
But I do think that Dak holds this hammer, Wilds, which is he showed he was willing to turn down an extension when he was making $2 million last year. If he shows he's willing to turn down an extension when he's scheduled to make $31 million on the franchise tag, then he gets to a point where he only has to roll that dice one more time, and then he becomes the most sought-after free agent in the history of the NFL, which is what a quarterback at his age, of his talent, would be if he hit true free agency. And so if I'm Dallas, I'm incredibly nervous that he had this level of security as far as not signing a deal back when he was making $2 million. If he were to do that after making $32 million, then next year he could accept the $35 million franchise tag and be one season removed from true free agency. That would be my big concern, Dallas, if I'm Dallas long term, Kevin.
See, I wouldn't be worried about that, Nick. There's still a lot of money in Dallas. Dallas doesn't have any taxes, and he knows that he's the big star when he's playing for the big star. You can get maybe a little bit more money in Indianapolis, but that's not the Dallas Cowboys, and that's where I think he can get the most money long-term over his career.
All right, Greg and Nick, don't think this will get done. Wilds, you do. Your glass always half full. That's why we love you, buddy. We got to go. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe.